Hey everybody. You know, I have not seen The Amazing Spider-Man 2, but from what I have understood, from what I have heard from a variety of sources online, whether it be sibling rivalry with Doug and Rob Walker on Blimp.tv and on YouTube, whether it be from what I read online from IGN, Entertainment Weekly, Variety, Hollywood Reporter, from what I've watched, watch and hear from various reviewers here on YouTube and other sources, I think it's plain to see that Amazing Spider-Man 2 is definitely a mixed bag. It's definitely a mixed bag, in the eyes of a lot of fans. You have a lot of fans that feel it's a good one, there's nothing really wrong with it, and then you have a lot of fans that feel that it's too convoluted. It's got too many plot points that make things confusing. It's got too many villains way too soon. It's got a death that pretty much everybody saw coming, but didn't want to see it coming, happening way too soon. All these things that made it into what, like I said, a mixed bag in the eyes of a lot of fans. And in case you want to know what death I'm talking about, I think this is all you need to know about what death I'm talking about. Yeah, right there. And there's a lot of fans, I can guarantee you right now, that pretty much are thinking, why bring Emma Stone in as Gwen Stacy if you're just going to kill her off in the second film? Well, the way I look at it is like this. If they're going to do with Gwen, according to what I've read online and what I've heard online, if they're going to do with Gwen what they did with her father in the second film, and that is basically like have a ghostly apparition or ghostly reminder or something show up in a third film, then fine. I'm cool with that. But to me, it's more like, a lot of people still look at it like, why bring her in if you're just going to kill her off in the second film? I'll say this, and I think somebody might agree with me. The death of Gwen Stacy could have waited to at least a third or fourth film. The reason I say that is because you could have basically used the second film as you originally were intending to build some kind of conflict, if not some kind of friendship, between Peter, Gwen, and MJ, Mary Jane. You could have done that. You could have built it in the second film so that by maybe the third film, towards the end of the third film, maybe even the end of the fourth film, the death of Gwen Stacy would mean a lot more, have more of an emotional impact. I mean, I think to quote what Doug Walker said on Sibling Rivalry, as soon as, and you don't even have to be a fan of comic books to enjoy this, to go and watch this film, because pretty much when you see a character that's a main character in a series of films, and this being like one of them, when you see a main character, doing a sort of like making an important speech, in this case a graduation speech, about hope and the lives ahead of themselves, yeah, you could pretty much agree with Doug Walker when you say bye-bye to that character, because you pretty much know that character saying those lines is screwed. And yeah, and again, this is what makes it a mixed bag in the eyes of fans, because maybe it was way too soon. It was way too soon. I mean, we understand. I know there's a lot of fans, even I understand, you want to bring Mary Jane in, but if you're going to do that, you should have just kept it the way it was going to be. But it didn't happen. And now we got to wait till the third film to see Mary Jane, and maybe see if Gwen's death has any impact on her. Probably not. But another thing that made Amazing Spider-Man a mixed bag in the eyes of a lot of fans was the fact that you had too many villains way too soon, and by having these many villains, you also had too many story plot points going all around. You had the thing with Electro, Rhino, Harry Osborn, and slash Green Goblin. You had that going on. You had the man in the shadows looking up the information. You had Peter trying to find out more about his parents, what was going on there. You know, so many plot points, so many story elements, so many different plot points going all around that it made things, obviously from what I understand, confusing in the eyes of some people, if not a lot of people. Now I can understand that they want to spin off to the Sinister Six movie, they want to spin off into the Venom movie and possibly the Carnage movie, but if you're going to do that, do it more in a way that's not going to confuse the audience. I mean, I remember going and watching the first film, and I was not confused whatsoever. I enjoyed it. I liked it. It was, straightforward as to why this guy was acting the way he was, why this guy had become what he was. Basically it was straightforward. And when I hear people saying they're kind of confused, kind of going this way, they're basically being thrown this way and that way and this way and that way, because of the different story elements, involved in the film. When I hear people say, "Hey, I was getting thrown this way and that way and this way and that way," I didn't know, what was going on. That does make it sound like the movie it definitely sounds like the director was trying to do too much, too soon, and most importantly, in a second film in which you don't have to do. I mean, if you're going to have more than one villain, 2 is the limit. I mean, you take a look at let's take a look at the 2 Batman films that came after the original '89 film. Okay, you had Penguin, you had Catwoman, enough. And it was not confusing, you pretty much figured out, you pretty much had plot points that were not confusing, straightforward, that actually, made sense as to why these characters were becoming who they were. In a sense, the same way with the Riddler and Two-Face, in a sense, when it came to Batman Forever. But then you get to Batman and Robin, and that's another story. But then again, that's a lesson in having 3 villains a little too much. It makes things a little too confusing. But the point is this. When I hear that Amazing Spider-Man 2 is a mixed bag, all I can think of is maybe Mark Webb, again, was trying to do too much too soon, and perhaps he was trying to give too much fan service too soon. It kind of goes back to like how people look at Spider-Man 3. They pretty much knew Venom was going to be part of the main plot because of the alien symbiote. And they pretty much knew we were going to have another villain, they just didn't think we were going to have 3. And I guess that's what made things confusing as well. And they pretty much didn't know that one of the villains was going to tie into the first film. So, there you go. You had all these different plot elements, story elements going on, and that confused a lot of fans there, and it kind of made the third Spider-Man film of the original trilogy a mixed bag as well. Not hated, well, maybe hated in the eyes of some, but not hated entirely, just a mixed bag. And again, I think that's just the main problem with certain films, with certain comic book adaptations. If you're going to do one, make sure you only have 1 or 2 villains and that the plot points don't intertwine and confuse people. Because that's basically what Spider-Man 2, Amazing Spider-Man 2 was doing. It confused a lot of fans. Because you had all these different story elements. And then you had the death of Gwen Stacy that in the eyes of some, even myself, felt was too soon. You didn't give it enough time to build. And I understand, maybe you want to maybe you're following the Marvel Now adaptations the Marvel Now version of Spider-Man. This new Marvel universe, this Marvel Now version of Spider-Man. Maybe that's what you're doing. Maybe that's what you're following. And that's okay, that's fine, but if I'm Mark Webb, I have to make sure I do it correctly. And I don't confuse anybody. I mean, the guy's a good director, don't get me wrong. I mean, everybody has praised Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone's performances as both Peter Parker and Gwen, despite all the confusion, despite the various plot points given in the film. They're basically saying that they did the best they could amongst all this confusion. again, so, I understand where they're coming from, and maybe they'll fix that going into the third film. The way I look at it, honestly, folks, is I think everything that's happened here, the reason we had so much, honestly, folks, the reason we had so much put into the second film, the reason we're getting these spin-offs of Sinister Six and Venom and all that, the reason we're getting all this happening is it's going to lead towards a Amazing Spider-Man movie centered around Secret Wars. I guarantee it. I guarantee that's where it's heading. It's going to head towards Amazing Spider-Man movie, whether it's going to be the fourth film, if they do a fourth film, maybe even the third, if they want to do it there, because it seems that might be, because it seems Mark Webb likes to add a lot of stuff lately and just get them all out of the way. But to me, I think we're heading towards a Spider-Man film, whether, like I said, it's the third, fourth, or fifth film, depending on how far they go, it's going to be centered around Secret Wars. I guarantee it. I just get this feeling. I just get this feeling, and you know what? It may not even be Secret Wars. It might be their own loose adaptation of, oh God, I never thought I was going to say this, One More Day. Yeah. I've got a feeling it's going to be between those two, either Secret Wars or One More Day is going to get adapted into a Spider-Man film before the series of Spider-Man Mark Webb films and Andrew Garfield are over. You know why? I just get this. It just feels that that's the direction they're going in. It's just a direction. I just feel it. I don't know why. It's going to be one of those two areas that go in, and that is why a lot of this is happening right now. Is it a little too much, a little too soon? Yeah. No doubt it's a little too much and it's a little too soon. Does it confuse the audience when they do this? Of course. Does it confuse them because you have so many different story elements and plot points going on and you're doing it because you want to spin off to this film and spin off to that film? Of course. But again, I believe that the reason this is all happening right now, whether it's the confusion, the multiple plot points and villains and stuff in Amazing Spider-Man 2, the spin-offs, the Sinister Six film, and Venom film and all that, it's because it's leading towards one Spider-Man film, depending on how far they go, how many they do with Mark Webb as director and Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man, Peter Parker. It's leading towards either a One More Day adaptation or Secret Wars adaptation. It's just my opinion, just my feelings. So let me know what you guys think though down below. Do you agree with me on this, on anything I said here? And I'll talk to y'all later. Comment below. God bless. Take care.